Hey, it's Jared with Gear and Light. Today we're going to talk about the Sony a7 III and the fact that it's over 3 years old and it's still a fantastic camera. So is this camera still worth purchasing 3 years later? That's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Now, I was looking through all the photos that I've shot with this camera over the last several years, and I realized I've used this camera a lot more for video than I have for photos. While it's a fantastic camera for shooting photos, it's also an amazing camera for shooting video. The majority of the videos that I've been putting out over the last several years on this YouTube channel, on my YouTube channel State of Tech, and even on my personal YouTube channel, were shot with this camera. Of course, right now I'm looking into the a7S III, which is a camera that I picked up late last year, but prior to that, all of the videos were being shot on the a7 III. It's a camera that I can count on for pretty much anything. It's just super versatile, it gets the job done, and it's just an all-around great camera. Now, when Sony came out with this camera in April of 2018, it had a lot of really nice features and benefits over the cameras that were currently available, even some of the cameras that were higher end than this. The autofocus was absolutely fantastic. The low light performance was even better than in prior versions. And so it made this camera just a great choice for anybody who wanted to be shooting video, also wanted to be shooting photos, so that kind of hybrid shooter. Of course, there are cameras that Sony makes that are more dedicated towards higher resolution photography, and then also cameras that are more dedicated towards video, like the a7S line for video and the a7R line for photos. But the a7 line has just been a great solid camera that gets you the best of both worlds and a lot of the features that you see in both of those cameras. And that's why it is still a good buy even all these years later. Now, of course, there will be the a7 IV probably sometime this year. I'm guessing maybe later this fall, or maybe not until 2022. Yeah, it's up in the air. There isn't really anything but speculation at this point. But what I do know is that you can easily find this camera without a lens for around $1,700. There are a lot of them on the used market as well, and you really just can't get better performance out of a camera for that price point. Even with newer cameras on the market, a lot of them still are either more expensive because they're a newer camera, or if they are around the same price as this, they're a lower end model camera that are lacking some of the features that this camera would get. Now, I don't want to talk about specs on this camera because there are tons of videos that talk about specs on this camera, being that it's been around for as long as it has. But since I changed out my camera that I film with to the a7S III, I've been shooting a lot more photos with the a7 III, taking it to my kids' sporting events, birthday parties, different things like that, because it's just a fantastic camera that I know I can count on when I want to shoot both photo and video. Right now I have the 40mm G series lens. Sony had just recently released a series of 3 lenses that are kind of compact, around the same exact size and 3 different focal lengths, and I wanted to give them a try. And so I've been using this 40mm on this camera and have really been enjoying it. So the a7 III, I think, is fantastic value for the money. Even though we are 3 years after the camera has been released, it's still fantastic, and the value is still there. As far as video shooting goes, yes, it doesn't shoot 60p and 4K or anything like that, but if you don't need that, it covers all of the other bases as far as video goes. So you're not going to have any issues being a hybrid shooter, shooting both photo and video with this, and being able to get images and video that don't look 3 years old, that look just as good as all of the other cameras out on the market right now. The only things that we will probably see improvements on when it comes to the a7 IV is just overall enhanced performance on the camera, and we'll probably see some improvements to autofocus, probably bump up the frame rates on 4K shooting and stuff like that. There's definitely going to be some upgrades when the a7 IV comes out, but I don't see it being so drastically different that this camera's value at the price that it is now is taken away. I think this camera is going to be still a great contender and a great option for the next several years to come, just because it performs as well as it does. So right now in 2021, is the A7 III a good buy? I think it absolutely is, based on the price, based on the fact that we're seeing less cameras hitting the market that are in the APS-C, so the crop sensor cameras. A lot is moving towards full frame, especially with Sony. They just consolidated by announcing that they're not even going to be producing anything for their DSLR lineup anymore. Sony is 100% all in on mirrorless, and so I see things just getting better and improving even more for the mirrorless lineup. And right now, this camera just can't be beat for its price and its performance. So if you're interested, I've got links down in the description below to this camera, some of the lenses that I use most on this camera, the SD cards that I use, and a few other little accessories that I find super useful for this camera when shooting photo and even video. So make sure to check those out. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I hope to see you back here soon on Gear and Light. Thanks a lot.